imprisonment, his prison guard has finally broken his silence and is ready to spill all the covered-up secrets.
The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward.
With all the new allegations and revelations, can Sean Diddy Combs get any more disgraced than he already is? From exploiting minors to drugging them, he really left no stone unturned.
And drugs were found in their system, weird drugs. Drugs that you probably never heard of.
Let's dive into the story to find out what exactly happened. Secrets finally revealed. Sean Diddy Combs, the disgraced music producer, is having a tough time in prison, and it's mostly because of the food, according not just to him, but also to his lawyer, Mark Agnifilo. After a court visit on October 10, 2024, Mark said, "I think the food's probably the roughest part of it." Combs is staying at a detention center in Brooklyn while he waits for his trial, which is scheduled for May 5, 2025. He's facing some serious charges, including illegal carnal exploitation and racketeering.
The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways.
His daily routine in prison starts with an early breakfast at 6 a.m., then lunch at 11 a.m., and dinner after the afternoon head count. The meals aren't exactly gourmet. They range from hamburgers and fish to beef tacos, and even some healthier options like lentils and tofu. During a court appearance, Combs, wearing prison clothes, didn't move much but waved to his family and lawyers. His mum came all the way from Florida, and his kids were there to support him. According to a source, the kids were very happy to support their father. They are united in their support. The prosecutors are going through a lot of data from Combs' devices, and they say there's a lot of it. His lawyers are trying to get him out on bail, but have been denied twice because there are concerns he might try to influence witnesses. The federal prosecutors have accused Combs of arranging forced vulgar performances, and these claims are laid out in the official charges. He was indicted for racketeering and transporting people for performing illicit activities in September. Right now, at 54 years old, he's currently behind bars awaiting trial. The situation is made even more challenging by the potential lawsuits from around 120 people who plan to sue Diddy for alleged vulgar misconduct and exploitation, according to attorney Tony Busby.
The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward. Our team has had at this point more than 3,285 individuals contact us with people claiming to have been victimized by Sean Combs.
Busby talks about how many of the victims sought medical treatment and were tested for drugs after the freak-offs.
And drugs were found in their system, weird drugs. Drugs that you probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called xylazine, or trank, which, based on our research, is known as a horse tranquilizer.
Busby's claims include allegations that Diddy used horse tranquilizers to drug victims, one of whom was said to be just 15 years old. The said victim was heavily drugged and taken to a private room allegedly in the presence of Mr. Combs. Amid these accusations, Diddy's mother, Janice Smalls Combs, has publicly defended her son, expressing her sadness and heartbreak over the situation. She says, "I come to you today as a mother that is devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations made against my son, Sean Combs. She believes her son is being judged unfairly and is denied the chance to prove his innocence." She says, "It is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies. To bear witness to what seems to be like a public lynching of my son before he has had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain too unbearable to put into words. Like every human being, my son deserves to have this day in court, to finally share his side and to prove his innocence." Now that Diddy is behind bars, it's a huge change for someone known for a flashy lifestyle. Timothy Smith, a former reality TV star and ex-prisoner, has some insights into what Diddy's new life might be like. Smith, who spent time in a US federal prison, says that even a celebrity like Diddy won't get special treatment. He says his money and wealth won't get him any benefits. In the federal system, it's so limited you don't get extra privileges because you're rich. His wealth won't help him in here, nothing at all. Inmates are allowed only basic items like a tracksuit and sneakers, and even those can be taken away during raids if prisoners try to hoard them. They do raids, and if you try to stockpile, they take everything. People think there are TVs and radios, but where he's at, there's nothing, not even a radio. You get a Bible and one book per week. Life in prison is tough, and Smith describes how isolation is often used as a tactic to control prisoners. Diddy was firstly placed in a management unit, which meant no contact with other inmates, and contrary to what people might think, he wouldn't have access to TVs or radios. Communication with the outside world is also restricted. Inmates get only 300 minutes of phone time per month, and once it's used up, they have to wait until the next month. month. Smith mentions that this can happen quickly, leaving prisoners with no contact for most of the month. There's no room for special treatment, and Smith emphasized that even if Diddy were with other prisoners, his wealth wouldn't buy him much. They are often segregated by race. Looking at Diddy's future, Smith doesn't hold back. He advises Diddy to accept his situation, as federal charges are hard to negotiate out of, and going to trial could lead to a worse sentence. Smith speaks from experience, having served time for drug trafficking. He warns that fighting the system might lead to a harsher outcome, suggesting that taking a plea deal might be a better option. Another ex-inmate named Larry Levine, founder of Wall Street Prison Consultants, also described the conditions under which Diddy would be held.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him.
Levine says that Diddy's current situation is quite opposite to what he initially expected. He believed he would be released on bail, but was surprised when his request was denied, leading him to face the realities of the criminal justice system. After he was imprisoned, Diddy was receiving regular visits from a shrink. Due to safety concerns, Diddy was initially placed in a special cell with a transparent wall, allowing inmates to monitor him. These inmates, known as cabaret inmates, are responsible for watching over those on suicide watch and assisting with building maintenance. The prison environment is heavy with violence, and Diddy could not be housed in a regular unit initially due to potential risks. The transparent walled cell, referred to as the bubble, was a safety measure to ensure an easy 24-hour monitoring. Levine says there is a significant risk within the prison, especially for someone in Diddy's position. An inmate serving a long sentence with no chance of release might target him to gain street credibility.
And this is why Diddy, he can't go into a regular housing unit, because somebody will take him out for sure. Somebody's gonna get a lot of street credibility out of this. People that are doing substantial time that know they're never getting out, they'll just the guy.
However, now that Diddy has been imprisoned in the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, let's look at how the facility and its overall condition is. Inside Diddy's prison. The Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, New York, has long been notorious for its extreme conditions, and even judges are now expressing reluctance to send defendants to this troubled federal jail. In a recent case, a U.S. district judge found himself unwilling to send a tax fraud convict there. The judge's decision was influenced by the appalling state of the MDC and due to the dangerous, barbaric conditions that have existed for some time at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. The MDC has been under scrutiny for years, and just recently there has been another addition to its list of infamous detainees. Sean Diddy Combs is currently housed in a special protection section of the jail, sharing space with none other than the disgraced cryptocurrency entrepreneur Sam Bankman-Fried. The facility's notoriety is further backed by its previous residents, including rapper R. Kelly and Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Judge Brown's concerns are not isolated. In his sentencing decision, he referenced multiple cases where fellow judges had hesitated to send defendants to MDC due to its deplorable conditions. The judge said allegations of inadequate supervision, unbridled and lack of sufficient medical care are supported by an increasing body of evidence, with certain instances that are irrefutable. He further emphasized the chaos and uncontrolled violence within the facility, citing an incident where a defendant was attacked with a knife multiple times and received no medical attention, instead enduring 25 days of confinement in his cell. The judge attributed these worsening conditions to staffing shortages and the aftermath of the COVID pandemic, which had forced the jail into lockdown. The MDC's troubled history dates back to its opening in the 1990s. In 2019, an electrical fire during winter caused a blackout, leaving inmates in freezing darkness. The following year, inmate Jamel Floyd died after being pepper sprayed by correctional officers, leading his family to sue the federal government. Despite the Department of Justice finding insufficient evidence of administrative misconduct, they acknowledged the inappropriate use of pepper spray. Judge Jesse Furman of the Federal District Court in Manhattan also refused to send a drug case defendant to MDC due to safety concerns. Instead, the defendant was allowed to report directly to the prison where he would serve his sentence, bypassing the notorious jail. Andrew Dalick, a Brooklyn public defender, described the MDC as, "The decrepit conditions are really fueled by this sort of terrible conflation of circumstances, overcrowding, understaffing, and a lack of a political will to fix the conditions." Dalick's clients have experienced the harsh reality of MDC, with Cordero passing away at 36 after a fight in the facility. U.S. Congressman Dan Goldman, representing the district where MDC is located, has called for increased federal oversight to tackle understaffing, solitary confinement, and violence. The Federal Bureau of Prisons, responsible for the facility, claims to take its duty of protecting inmates and staff seriously, saying that there might be a creation of an urgent action team to address MDC's problems and efforts to hire more staff and clear maintenance backlogs. Overcrowding at MDC has been linked to the closure of its sister facility in Manhattan, which shut down after Jeffrey Epstein's in-custody demise. What's more is that the CCTV footage too was erased by some so-called technical errors. With a substantial number of inmates awaiting trial, the MDC's conditions take a severe toll on those facing potential long-term incarceration. Dulac emphasizes the injustice, stating, "It should not be the case that while your life is on the line and your liberty is on the line, that you have to be completely stripped of your humanity." MDC Brooklyn has a way of really breaking people down and making them feel less than human. Now, this situation at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, has sparked a range of reactions and efforts to address the worsening conditions. Judges have been outspoken in their criticism of the Bureau of Prisons. U.S. District Judge Furman allowed a drug convict to remain free on bail after his drug conviction rather than sending him to MDC Brooklyn. This decision was a direct response to the unacceptable conditions at the jail. Similarly, in August, U.S. District Judge Gary Brown took a firm stance, stating that he would vacate a defendant's sentence if the Bureau of Prisons sent him to MDC Brooklyn, opting for home confinement instead. The Bureau of Prisons has responded by temporarily halting the transfer of convicted defendants to MDC Brooklyn for sentence serving. They acknowledged that a small number of individuals are currently serving sentences in a minimum security unit at the jail. The closure of the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan in 2021, following Jeffrey Epstein's demise, led to the relocation of its inmates to MDC Brooklyn and a medium security prison in Otisville, New York. Prison consultant Sam Mangle describes the MDC as pure hell, claiming it to be the worst federal detention center in the country. Initially placed on suicide watch, Diddy experienced constant surveillance, with fluorescent lights and cameras on 24/7. Inmates on suicide watch are strip searched every time they leave their cells and are provided with rubber shoes and special utensils. Personal hygiene items like toothbrushes require authorization. Diddy has since been moved to protective custody. According to a source, it's for people who have either requested protective custody or need protective custody, so it would be for sex offenders and very high-profile individuals. This section houses around 30 inmates in single-man cells with a 500-square-foot recreation deck. The rapper's daily routine is a stark contrast to his former life, with a strict schedule for eating, showering, and laundry. The food is unappetizing. There's chili, shredded chicken with rice, and Wednesday is murder burgers, a thin patty like shoe leather, says the ex-inmate. Inmates can eventually purchase additional food from the commissary, but access is limited at the beginning. Moreover, Diddy is allowed phone calls and some email access, but they are heavily monitored and text only. The ex-inmate, who spent time there in 2016, said, "Email is timed at like 5 cents a minute. You can't receive any images or anything like that. Visiting hours are restricted, and visitors undergo background checks. Diddy's fame and wealth might offer some protection, as guards and inmates may seek favors or extort him. However, he could also become an easy target due to his charges." Mangle notes that carnal offenders are often targeted, and Diddy's alleged crimes could make him vulnerable to threats and mistreatment. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all charges and denied the allegations in the civil lawsuits. His spokesperson emphasizes his innocence, commitment to his defense, and the lack of proven claims. If convicted, he faces a sentence of 15 years to life in prison.
Mr. Combs is a fighter. He's going to fight this to the end. He's innocent. He came to New York to establish his innocence. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of the charges. There's nothing that the government said in their presentation today that changes anyone's mind about anything.
Combs' legal team has argued that the Metropolitan Detention Center is not suitable for pretrial detention, citing recent detainee deaths and judges' concerns. They have requested a transfer to a New Jersey jail, but the decision rests with the Bureau of Prisons. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams expressed concern for the safety of all pretrial detainees. He said, "We are concerned with anyone's safety whenever they are detained prior to trial. I do not draw any sort of connection between Jeffrey Epstein's suicide and what may or may not happen to any other defendant while they are detained pre-trial. The issues at MDC Brooklyn are part of a broader pattern within the Bureau of Prisons. An Associated Press investigation has uncovered systemic flaws, including escapes, violence, deaths, and severe staffing shortages across its facilities. The closure of the women's prison in Sancti, Dublin, California, known as the Club, due to staff on inmate illicit and vulgar misconduct, is another example of the systemic issues. In response to the AP's reporting, President Joe Biden signed a law in July 2024 to strengthen oversight of the Bureau of Prisons. But that's not all for Diddy. All these developments make one wonder what else is in store for the fallen rap star. What's next for Diddy? From music to fashion and beyond, Diddy has conquered it all. But his fate took a U-turn after his illicit activities were revealed. There was an ongoing feud between him and 50 Cent, and he wasted no time taking advantage of Diddy's fall. In a since-deleted Instagram post, 50 Cent claimed that Diddy would be granted bail during his next court date, challenging his followers to maintain the same level of interest and engagement. He wrote, "Diddy gonna make bail his next court date, so all this y'all been saying, keep the same energy. Don't you even try to take that post down." Diddy's arrest followed a grand jury indictment and the belief by prosecutors that he is a flight risk. During a hearing, Diddy's attorneys proposed a bond package of $50 million, offering to forfeit his and his family's passports and sell his private plane. Despite these efforts, Diddy was denied bail and sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center. Prosecutors appealed the bail decision, but it was struck down. However, the case was reassigned to Judge Arun Subramanian, providing another opportunity for the prosecution to argue for detention. They have filed a third appeal, citing legal errors and insufficient evidence for bail denial. 50 Cent's Instagram post is part of his ongoing public feud with Diddy. He has consistently trolled Diddy, particularly during the early stages of the investigation when Diddy's homes were raided. Moreover, 50 Cent announced plans to produce a documentary about Diddy's alleged misconduct, which has been picked up by Netflix. 50 Cent and director Alexandria Stapleton emphasized their commitment to giving a voice to victims and presenting a nuanced perspective, ensuring that Diddy's actions do not define hip-hop culture as a whole. In a joint statement, the two said, "This is a story with significant human impact. It is a complex narrative spanning decades, not just the headlines or clips seen so far. We remain steadfast in our commitment to give a voice to the voiceless and to present authentic and nuanced perspectives. While the allegations are disturbing, we urge all to remember that Sean Combs' story is not the full story of hip-hop and its culture. We aim to ensure that individual actions do not overshadow the culture's broader contributions." Sean Diddy Combs is determined to secure his release from jail on bond, as he has appealed the latest judge's decision to deny him bail. Since his arrest on September 16th, two $50 million bail offers have been rejected. Judge Robin Tarnowski denied the first bail request on September 17th, citing the nature of Diddy's alleged crimes, which occurred behind closed doors, and expressing concerns about the safety of potential victims. The following day, Judge Andrew L. Carter echoed this sentiment, deeming the bail proposal insufficient to ensure community safety. This decision came during a court appearance where Combs was present in a black shirt accompanied by two U.S. Marshals. His sons, Justin Combs, Quincy Brown, and King Combs, were also in attendance for the second consecutive day. The judge highlighted the discovery of 6 guns during raids on Combs' homes earlier in the year and the subpoena served to his head of security. Prosecutors further alleged that Combs had contacted victims and witnesses, attempting to convince them that their participation in his orchestrated illicit acts was consensual. They also claimed that Combs' former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, was trying to flee from him and a hired prostitute after a freak-off incident captured in the viral 2016 hotel security footage. Combs' legal team argued that the towel he was seen wearing in the video was because Cassie had taken his clothes, but prosecutors countered that this blatant lie was an example of Combs being untrustworthy. The hearing became heated when Judge Carter questioned the defense's explanation for Combs' violent behavior towards Cassie. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said about texts between Combs and Cassie, "They loved each other. The written messages are heartbreaking. The and the violence were totally separate, motivated by separate things. The way they chose to be intimate, they would bring a third person on. They chose that." The judge shot back, asking for clarity. "What does that have to do with him punching her, throwing a vase at her? What's love got to do with that?" Combs' lawyers made a second bid for bail, proposing a $50 million package with strict conditions, including home detention, GPS monitoring, weekly drug testing, and a visit log. They assured the court that Combs would have no access to a cell phone or the internet. However, the judge denied this request too. Mark Agnifilo has stated that Diddy intends to testify in his upcoming trial. The trial date has not been set, but Agnifilo aims to make it happen as soon as possible. The indictment against Diddy includes disturbing allegations, particularly regarding his supposed freak-off parties. According to the court documents, Diddy allegedly used force to cause victims to engage in extended sex with male commercial sex that Combs arranged, directed, during, and often electronically recorded. The evidence found at Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles further supports these claims, including a large quantity of baby oil and lubricant, as well as drugs. In addition to the federal criminal case, Diddy faces multiple civil lawsuits from women alleging mistreatment. Prison consultant Justin Paperny also offered valuable information into Sean Diddy Combs' current situation. According to him, Diddy's experience in jail will depend on his mindset. If he focuses on the negative aspects like limited control, living conditions, and restricted activities, he will have a miserable time. However, if he learns from others who have been in similar situations and focuses on his family and personal growth, the experience can be more bearable. Given Diddy's alleged history of drug use, Paperny notes that adjusting to life without drugs in jail can be brutal. In solitary confinement, access to drugs is limited, and engaging in the prison hustle for drugs is nearly impossible. This adjustment can be particularly hard for someone accustomed to having everything at their disposal.
And it's not always easy to do when you are used to getting everything you want for so long and then suddenly you are without. It requires discipline.
Diddy and his defense team should learn from the experiences of other high-profile individuals who have gone to trial. Accepting responsibility for some actions while denying others can be a strategic approach. Paperny advises Diddy to focus on the victims and their experiences to potentially improve his chances of a better outcome.
The more he can say, maybe I did this, but I didn't do that, then he can get, as I say, on the right path of accepting some sense of responsibility. But in our experience, those who have the resources, the means, who have convinced themselves, if anything, they are the victim, they go to trial. Unfortunately, for those people, most lose.
According to Paperny, Diddy should prove his worth to his family and embrace a better message. He should put himself in the shoes of prosecutors, judges, and probation officers, understanding their perception of him based on the alleged conduct.
He needs to learn from people like Michael, people who have endured struggle, never complain, prove worthy of the love and support of their family, identify with victims, because they may be free, but in their own mind, they're suffering more than he may be in that 23-hour lockdown. In sum, learn from those who have mastered the experience. Don't complain. People have had it worse and not had the privilege that he had taken for granted.
By demonstrating a change in his behavior and focusing on the victims, Diddy can potentially improve his chances of a shorter sentence and eventual freedom. But does Diddy deserve that? Time and the outcome of the upcoming trials would decide that.
Sean Diddy Combs' unending list of atrocities is beginning to garner questions on what could possibly be his conduct behind bars.
Right. You need locks on the doors? Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
These speculations are particularly geared towards how he was able to go under the radar for decades, while the alleged misconduct at freak-offs and racketeering activities were sometimes hidden in plain sight. Did Diddy have law enforcement friends protecting him? While this might give the impression that Diddy is protected in jail, individuals familiar with the system seem to believe otherwise.
Somebody can do something to them and get a name for themselves, they're gonna actually do it.
Diddy's alleged dealings within prison walls. Sean Diddy Combs' life behind bars has gone under scrutiny as his alleged crimes continue to play out in the public. There are speculations concerning his past relationship with law enforcement and how this could possibly be an advantage for him in jail. Over the years, the star rapper went under the radar while his alleged criminal activities reigned supreme. Diddy was able to evade the law for decades, possibly due to his good rapport with some law enforcement officials. Now that he is behind bars, could the presence of such a relationship work in his favor? There have also been rumors that his portrait was mounted in certain law enforcement agents' offices, leading one to wonder if there was still some sort of loyalty to Diddy, even as the long arms of the law caught up with him. It also doesn't help matters that there are rumors about Diddy's conduct with the female cops. This is owing to the alleged records of sexual violence and trafficking against unwilling female victims tied to his name in the mounting federal indictments and lawsuits. Since November 2023, Diddy's life has unraveled, exposing a Pandora's box of alleged crimes, drug abuse, and racketeering. Some of the most gripping stories included people who worked with him in the music industry, former label Cine Cassie Ventura, and unsuspecting women who were allegedly forced into acts. One of the horrifying stories amid the sea of lawsuits included a woman identified as Thalia Graves, who claimed to have had a harrowing experience with Diddy. According to Graves, the events unfolded during the summer of 2001, a time when Sean Diddy Combs was at the pinnacle of his career, known for his influence and dominance in the music industry. Graves, who was in a relationship with one of Combs' employees at the time, alleges that Combs exploited her connection to the Bad Boy Records executive to orchestrate a meeting under pretenses. She claims that Combs, along along with his then bodyguard Joseph Big Joe Sherman, lured her into a situation that would soon turn into a nightmare. The lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York outlines a series of shocking and deeply unsettling allegations. According to the court documents, Graves was invited to the studio to discuss her boyfriend's performance issues with Combs and Sherman. However, what was supposed to be a professional meeting quickly took a dark turn. Graves alleges that she was offered a glass of wine, which she believes was laced with a drug. She recalls losing consciousness shortly after consuming the drink, only to awaken in a state of terror. The lawsuit details the horrific events that Graves claims followed her loss of consciousness. She alleges that she found herself bound and restrained, unable to escape the clutches of her assailants. Graves accuses Combs of mercilessly raping her, both anally and vaginally, while Sherman allegedly forcefully slammed her onto a table and repeatedly assaulted her orally. Despite her cries for help, Graves claims that the men remained undeterred, continuing their brutal attack. The allegations made by Graves are not only centered around the physical assault, but also highlight the psychological torment she endured. She refrained from reporting the incident at the time, fearing the immense power and influence wielded by Combs and Sherman. According to the lawsuit, Graves was explicitly threatened by the men, who warned her that they could ruin her life if she dared to speak out. A further probe into Graves' lawsuit and several others filed by more women showed a sickening pattern of abuse that was far from coincidence. In the case of Cassie Ventura, what started out as a business relationship turned romantic, but took a really dark turn as time went on. Cassie's lawsuit, a 35-page federal complaint, accuses Combs of sexual assault, battery, and sex trafficking. She claims that Combs exerted complete control over her personal and professional life, effectively trapping her in a cycle of abuse. The allegations are harrowing, painting a picture of a man who used his power and influence to manipulate and dominate. According to Cassie's complaint, the relationship was marred by physical abuse. She describes instances where Combs allegedly demanded she carry a firearm for him. Lawsuit further alleges that Combs forced Cassie to engage in sexual acts with male sex workers, a claim that underscores the severity of the accusations against him. Cassie's allegations extend beyond personal abuse, touching on the professional environment fostered by Combs. She claims that employees of Bad Boy Entertainment were aware of the abuse yet did nothing to intervene. Cassie's decision to file the lawsuit in November 2023 marked a turning point. It was a bold move, one that brought her allegations into the public eye and challenged the powerful image of Sean Diddy Combs. In light of the singer's revelations, individuals who claimed to have witnessed moments of her alleged abuse came forward with their accounts of the story. One such person was Tiffany Red, a close friend and collaborator of Cassie and Diddy. Tiffany's account added a new layer to the narrative, providing first-hand insight into the alleged abuse. In an interview with NBC News, Tiffany recounted a particularly disturbing incident at Cassie's 29th birthday party. According to Tiffany, Diddy cornered Cassie and proceeded to verbally assault her, cussing her out with his hand in her face. This confrontation was just the beginning of a night that would reveal even more troubling behavior. Tiffany's revelations did not stop at the birthday party. She described waking up later that night to the sound of Cassie screaming. Concerned for her friend's safety, Tiffany rushed downstairs to find Cassie in a sedated state. It was then that Diddy made a crude and unsettling remark, demanding that Cassie engage in sexual activity with him. The revelations took an even darker turn when Tiffany shared what Cassie had confided in her months later. Cassie revealed that Diddy had pressured her into participating in what he called a freak-off, an event that allegedly involved hiring sex workers to sleep with Cassie while he watched. According to Tiffany, Diddy would only agree to work on Cassie's music or discuss future plans if she complied with these degrading demands. This revelation was a devastating blow to Tiffany, who had spent years writing songs for Cassie, only to discover the sinister context in which they were being used. Diddy's life in jail amid lawsuits. The transition from a life of luxury to the harsh realities of incarceration is a jarring experience for anyone, but for Sean Diddy Combs, it is a particularly stark contrast. Known for his opulent lifestyle and immense wealth, Diddy now finds himself navigating the grim environment of the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. This notorious facility, infamous for its dangerous and chaotic conditions, presents a formidable challenge for the music mogul as he awaits trial on serious charges. Upon entering the MDC, Diddy is immediately confronted with the facility's austere conditions. The prison, often described as hell on earth, is plagued by overcrowding and a lack of adequate staffing. Reports indicate that the prison operates with only about 55% of its full staffing, leading to a chaotic atmosphere where violence and disorder are commonplace. The stark environment is a far cry from the comfort and security of Diddy's Beverly Hills mansion. As a high-profile inmate, Diddy's celebrity status does little to shield him from the harsh realities of prison life. Unlike the privileges he enjoyed in the outside world, the federal system offers offers no special treatment for wealth or fame. Inmates are subject to the same strict regime, regardless of their background. This means that Diddy must adhere to the same rules and regulations as any other inmate, with no exceptions. The lack of privileges extends to the most basic amenities. In the MDC, there are no TVs or radios to provide a distraction from the monotony of prison life. Inmates are limited to a Bible and one book per week, leaving little room for entertainment or mental escape. This stark reality is a significant adjustment for Diddy, who is accustomed to a life filled with luxury and indulgence. The conditions within the MDC are notoriously harsh. Inmates have reported inadequate supervision, unbridled assaults, and a lack of sufficient medical care. These issues are compounded by the facility's history of power outages and extreme weather conditions, which have left inmates without heat or light for extended periods. Such conditions are a far cry from the comfort and security that Diddy once knew. The odds are against Diddy being in jail, and it worsens with a past nemesis rearing its head. Sean Diddy Combs finds himself in a perilous situation, reportedly fearing for his life behind bars. This fear is rooted in his alleged ties to the notorious murder of Tupac Shakur, a case that has remained shrouded in mystery since 1996. As whispers of Diddy's involvement resurface, the hip-hop mogul faces a chilling reality within the unforgiving confines of prison. Insiders warn that gang members view him as a trophy target, intensifying the danger he faces daily. The story of Sean Diddy Combs' alleged ties to Tupac Shakur's murder is a complex web of intrigue that has persisted for decades. To understand the gravity of Diddy's reported fears in prison, it's essential to delve into the background of these allegations and how they have come to haunt him today. The murder of Tupac Shakur on September 7, 1996, remains one of the most infamous unsolved cases in music history. Tupac, a prolific rapper and cultural icon, was fatally shot in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. His death shocked the hip-hop community and beyond, leaving a void that has never been filled. Over the years, numerous theories have emerged, attempting to unravel the mystery behind his murder. Among these theories, some have pointed fingers at the East Coast-West Coast rivalry that dominated the hip-hop scene during the 1990s. Tupac Shakur, representing the West Coast, and the notorious Big, representing the East Coast. Sean Diddy Combs, then known as Puff Daddy, was a close associate and producer of the notorious Big. As the founder of Bad Boy Records, Diddy played a significant role in shaping the East Coast hip-hop scene. This association inevitably drew him into the narrative surrounding Tupac's murder. Allegations of Diddy's involvement in Tupac's murder have surfaced over the years, fueled by the intense rivalry between the East Coast and West Coast factions. Some theories suggest that the rivalry escalated to a point where violence became an inevitable outcome. While no concrete evidence has ever been presented to link Diddy directly to the murder, the whispers and speculation have persisted, casting a long shadow over his career. Fast forward to the present day, and these allegations have reportedly resurfaced, leading to Diddy's current fears in prison. According to reports, insiders have warned that Diddy is at risk, as gang members could see him as a trophy target due to his alleged ties to Tupac's murder. The prison environment is notoriously dangerous, with rival gangs often using violence to settle scores and gain notoriety. For someone with Diddy's alleged connections, the threat is ever present, creating a climate of fear and uncertainty. Diddy's reported fears are not unfounded, as the prison system is known for its harsh conditions and the presence of individuals who may seek to exploit his alleged ties for their gain. The resurfacing of his name in connection with Tupac's murder has only heightened these concerns, leaving Diddy in a precarious position as he navigates the challenges of incarceration. This development even caught the attention of Diddy's longtime industry rival and Tupac's affiliate Suge Knight, who gave his 2 cents from prison. Knight, the formidable founder of Death Row Records, and Diddy, the mastermind behind Bad Boy Records, were at the helm of 2 of the most influential labels of the 1990s. Their competition was not just about music, it was a battle for supremacy in a burgeoning industry. This rivalry reached its peak during the infamous East Coast-West Coast feud, a conflict that tragically claimed the lives of rap icons. Tupac and the notorious Big Knight's reputation as a fearsome figure in the industry was matched by his business acumen, while Diddy was known for his flair and ability to create chart-topping hits. Their influence shaped the sound and culture of hip-hop, leaving an indelible mark on the genre. However, this intense rivalry also sowed seeds of animosity and distrust which linger to this day. The Death Row Records boss, who is currently serving a 28-year term in a California prison, stated that Diddy may be in for a rough time behind bars.
Somebody can do something to them and get a name for themselves, they're going to actually do it. Or they can do whatever they feel they got to do to prove themselves.
Knight relayed that prison and jail were negative environments that could easily set Diddy up as a target. He pivoted into a cautionary tone by stating, "But we also gotta learn. We gotta learn from our mistakes. Everything don't have to be a mistake. You gotta better yourself. But we all know what we signed up for in life." When asked if he felt like Diddy was in danger, Knight answered, "I don't want to say he's in danger, and neither should he say that," he advised. Because once he gets to the point where they feel he's going to be suicidal, his other words of wisdom were to ask for kosher meals because they're difficult to be tampered with. Maybe he should get on the Jewish diet because the kosher meals is way better than the food somebody else is making for you, he said. At least they're going to come hot, they're going to come sealed, and you're going to be the one to open them. That's very important. As Diddy faces the prospect of imprisonment, the shadow of this rivalry looms large. Suge Knight's recent comments about Diddy's potential vulnerability in prison highlight the ongoing tension between them. In the unforgiving environment of incarceration, where fame can be both a shield and a target, Diddy's past with Knight may exacerbate safety concerns. The history of their rivalry serves as a stark reminder of the complexities and dangers that come with being a high-profile figure in the world of hip-hop. The plot thickened as Tupac's family doubled down on the years-long allegations of Diddy's involvement with the rapper's murder. Decades after his untimely death, the quest for justice continues to unfold in unexpected ways. In a bold move, Tupac's family has enlisted the expertise of New York attorney Alex Spiro to delve into the murky waters surrounding the legendary rapper's murder. With growing allegations and whispers of a connection between Sean "Diddy" Combs and Tupac's tragic demise, Spiro's investigation aims to uncover the truth behind one of music's most enduring mysteries. The night of September 7th, 1996, remains etched in the annals of music history as one of its most tragic moments. Tupac Shakur, a towering figure in the world of hip-hop, was gunned down in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. The attack occurred as he was leaving a boxing match at the MGM Grand with Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight. The shooting left Tupac critically injured, and despite the best efforts of medical professionals, he succumbed to his injuries 6 days later, on September 13th. At the center of these speculations was the infamous East Coast-West Coast rivalry, a bitter feud that had been brewing between artists and record labels from the two coasts. Tupac, representing the West Coast, had been embroiled in a highly publicized conflict with East Coast artists, most notably the notorious Big and Sean "Diddy" Combs, who was then known as Puff Daddy. The rivalry had escalated to dangerous levels, with both sides exchanging barbs through their music and in the media. Tupac's accusations against Diddy and the notorious Big in his songs and interviews added fuel to the fire. He had openly accused them of being involved in a previous attack on him at Quad Studios in New York in 1994, where he was shot multiple times but survived. This incident intensified the animosity and set the stage for the tragic events that followed. As the investigation into Tupac's murder unfolded, the lack of concrete leads and the reluctance of witnesses to come forward hampered progress. The case went cold, leaving many questions unanswered and suspicions lingering. Among the most persistent rumors was the alleged involvement of Diddy in orchestrating the hit on Tupac. These suspicions were further fueled by the claims of former gang leader Dwayne "Keefe D. Davis, who alleged that Diddy had offered him $1 million to carry out the assassination. Despite Diddy's vehement denials of any involvement, the allegations refused to fade away. The Los Angeles Times published a report in 2008 suggesting Diddy's connection to the murder, which he categorically denied, stating that neither he nor the notorious Big had any knowledge of the attack on Tupac. However, the shadow of suspicion continued to loom over him, especially as new developments emerged. In September 2023, a breakthrough occurred when Dwayne "Keefe D. Davis was arrested and charged with murder in connection to Tupac's death. This arrest reignited interest in the case and brought the spotlight back on Diddy. With the arrest came renewed hope for justice, and Tupac's family decided to take decisive action. Major accusations against Diddy so far. The initial allegations against Diddy surfaced in the late 2000s, with rumors of his involvement in activities that went beyond the boundaries of legality. These whispers grew louder over the years, painting a picture of a man who allegedly used his power and influence to exploit others. The indictment, which spans 14 pages, is the result of a 6-month investigation by federal authorities, culminating in a grand jury's decision to bring charges against the music mogul. At the heart of the indictment are accusations of trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation for the purpose of engaging in prostitution. These charges are not only shocking, but also deeply disturbing, as they suggest a pattern of behavior that spans over a decade. According to the documents obtained, Diddy is accused of orchestrating freak-offs, elaborate events where women were allegedly manipulated into engaging in sexual acts with male sex workers, while he watched and sometimes recorded the encounters. The indictment claims that these freak-offs were not isolated incidents, but rather part of a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse. Diddy is said to have used his influence to coerce women into participating, often employing employing threats of violence, financial ruin, and reputational harm to ensure their compliance. The allegations also suggest that Diddy arranged for the transportation of sex workers and victims across state lines, further complicating the legal implications of his actions. One of the most shocking aspects of the indictment is the claim that Diddy used video recordings of these encounters as a form of blackmail. By capturing the events on camera, he allegedly held the footage over the heads of his victims, using it as collateral to maintain control over them. This level of manipulation and exploitation paints a chilling picture of a man who allegedly stopped at nothing to get what he wanted. The indictment also details instances of physical violence, with claims that Diddy assaulted multiple women over the years. One particularly disturbing incident occurred in March 2016 at a Los Angeles hotel, where Diddy allegedly kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman attempting to leave. This incident was reportedly captured on video, adding another layer of evidence to the already damning allegations. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Diddy's alleged actions were not limited to his personal life, but extended to his business dealings as well. The indictment accuses him and his associates of being part of a criminal organization within Combs Enterprise, engaging in activities such as forced labor, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. These charges suggest a level of criminality that goes far beyond the typical celebrity scandal, raising questions about the true nature of Diddy's empire. Employees of Combs Enterprise are accused of booking hotel rooms, stocking them with controlled substances, and providing the necessary supplies for the freak-offs. These preparations included items such as baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and specialized lighting, all intended to create an environment conducive to the alleged activities. The involvement of his associates suggests a coordinated effort to facilitate and conceal these events, further complicating the legal implications for all parties involved. In addition to the freak-offs, the indictment outlines instances of physical violence perpetrated by Diddy. One particularly egregious incident occurred in March 2016 at a Los Angeles hotel, where Diddy allegedly assaulted a woman attempting to leave. The indictment claims that he kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at her, an act of violence that was reportedly captured on video. This footage serves as a critical piece of evidence, corroborating the allegations of abuse and providing a tangible record of the incident. The indictment also accuses Diddy of engaging in acts of intimidation and coercion to maintain control over his victims. He is alleged to have tracked their locations, monitored their medical records, and dictated their appearance, all while supplying them with drugs to ensure their compliance. These actions suggest a calculated effort to exert dominance over his victims, using a combination of physical, emotional, and psychological manipulation to achieve his goals. Furthermore, the indictment highlights the role of Diddy's associates in perpetuating the alleged abuse. They are accused of aiding in the concealment of his actions, with one instance requiring a victim to remain in hiding for several days to recover from injuries inflicted by Diddy. A few weeks later, Diddy was slammed with yet 120 lawsuits detailing more cases of violence. The accusations, brought to light by Houston lawyer Tony Busby, detailed how the victims, comprising 60 males and 60 females, had suffered at the hands of Combs. Among these were 25 minors, with one particularly harrowing account involving a victim who was just 9 years old at the time of the alleged assault. The sheer number of accusers and the disturbing nature of their claims painted a grim picture of a pattern of abuse that spanned years and crossed state lines. The allegations were not confined to a single location or event. Busby revealed that the misconduct primarily took place at extravagant parties hosted by Combs in New York, California, and Florida. These gatherings, often attended by celebrities and industry insiders, became the backdrop for alleged incidents, where victims were reportedly given drinks laced with drugs. As the legal proceedings continued, the public's attention remained fixed on the unfolding drama, eager to see how